Law of assumption is here, law of attraction is here, and by using the law of assumption, you automatically shift your vibration. But what I'm here to talk about today is what I call quantum manifesting. Okay, so there's been like all these shifts happening in the manifestation community regarding the right approaches to manifestation. And one of the big, not debates, but kind of evolutions in the world of manifestation is this discussion around law of attraction versus law of assumption, right? So, law of attraction says that whatever energy you're vibrating in is what you attract, right? But law of assumption says that what you expect is what you receive. So to me, that was like an upgrade in consciousness. We went from thinking about trying to force ourselves to vibrate a certain way to just changing our expectations despite our vibration. In my mind, law of assumption is here, law of attraction is here, and by using the law of assumption, you automatically shift your vibration. But what I'm here to talk about today is what I call quantum manifest. I don't know if I'm the first person to talk about this, probably not, because I find that the collective kind of evolves together. So there's probably other people talking about this. And the basis is in the super famous slit experiment. So as part of the slit experiment, basically the determination was that waves functioned as particles as they were being observed. So basically the scientists did the same exact experiment twice where the energy was not being observed. And so they had wave energy put through two slits and it would form this wave pattern on the screen that they were using to project it onto. They found that when they put an observer on the wave particles or waves, they would become particles. So basically, potential energy became actual matter. So what a lot of people are saying in the manifestation community is that this confirms the law of assumption, basically, which is that things behave the way that we expect them to behave. But I think there's more to it than this. There's a different way to look at it that's a little bit easier for me to wrap my head around and apply to my daily life. And it's based on the nature of reality, the quantum nature of reality. So in the quantum reality, every potentiality exists, right? So there's this excellent video, and if I remember, I will link it below. If I forget, somebody remind me in the comments. But there's this video where someone actually is able to articulate the different dimensions. So obviously there's the 0 point dimension, which is a single point. And there's the first dimension, which is a straight line. There's two dimensional, which is like cartoons, flat screens, 2 dimensions, and so on and so on. So this person goes all the way up to explaining through the 11th dimension. And basically with each new dimension, there is the awareness of more possibilities, right? Until the point where you get to infinity possibilities in the physical realm. So go watch that video. It's a lot. Like I had to watch it like 5 times really to digest it, but it just, everything made sense after I watched that video. But basically at every point in time, every choice we make catapults us into a different reality. So all the different possibilities exist. People say there is no such thing as time, but time is a measurement, right? It allows us to have our experience a certain way. But in higher dimensions, we exist outside of time, meaning that the past, present, and future has already happened. We're looking at it like we're watching a movie. It's kind of like a movie. If you watch a movie, it already has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you can just replay it over and over again. And that's kind of how our reality exists. So every possible past and every possible future exists, and we are living in the present. And the present is the mechanism by which we select from all of those already existing realities. So at every moment, we get to choose which reality we want to move into. So quantum manifesting, aligned with the double slit experiment, says that whatever reality you want to experience, you just need to observe. What does that mean? You need to give it your attention. Because until you give something your attention, until you give a possible scenario your attention, it's just potential. It's just one of billions. Like, we can't even conceptualize. Actually, I take that back. If we can conceive of it, that means that version of us already exists in the future and or past. We can even shift our past. Like I said, it's like we're sitting in this vehicle, which is the present, and we're just observing our past and our future. So we can affect everything about our timeline, our full timeline, by observing our past in a different way, or observing a different outcome from our past. And basically all we're doing is giving our attention to one of those potential pasts that we did not select previously. It's a lot. I hope it's making sense. And if we want to select a new future, all we do is give our attention to that new future, and it converts itself from just potential, one of the many potential futures, to matter, which basically just means that we can experience it in the lower dimensions. We can experience it in the third, fourth, maybe fifth dimensions. So what does all that mean when it comes to day-to-day manifesting? Law of assumption is valid. Law of attraction is valid. Quantum manifesting sits on top of both of those. Quantum manifesting says that what you give your attention to is what you will eventually start to assume, law of assumption, and how you will eventually start to vibrate. So what you give your attention to, like the double slit experiment says, is what turns itself into matter in your reality. So I hear a lot of people saying that the double slit experiment says matter behaves like we assume it will. But what I think the double slit experiment says is that when we focus on any of these already existing potential pasts or futures, that's when they become real for us. The only thing that is actually real is the present moment. That's the only thing that we can actually experience. Everything else, we are the observer of. And you might say, no, my past definitely happened. Your past already existed before your consciousness experienced it as a present moment experience. So if you go back and you shift into a different potential past, you can change your present moment, and you could potentially shift the future that you select. And how do you select it? By your attention, what you pay attention to. And it is so simple, but not at all easy because of this thing that we have here, this brain. We have to train ourselves to manage our attention properly. We have to train ourselves to be disciplined about what we focus our attention on, because the more, just imagine it. And I know this is not how it actually works, but it's the easiest way that a 3D, 4D, 5D being can conceptualize it. But just imagine all these little dots, and if you zoom in on the dots, it's an experience that you could have, right? If you choose to imagine, whatever you can imagine already exists. I think I said that before, but just that's the preface. Whatever you imagine already exists according to quantum theory. But if you imagine something and you allow your attention to settle on it, the longer you allow your attention to settle on it, the more it becomes real. So that's why things don't manifest immediately a lot of times. We actually are in each moment reselecting. So let's use an example. Let's say you want to manifest a multi-million-dollar home. I mean, I know that's basic, but it's the first thing that popped in my mind. And you allow yourself to focus your attention on living in this multi-million-dollar home, right? Your attention might sway a little bit. Every time your attention sways, you're selecting a new potential reality. It's kind of like you're hopping across possibilities. And the more you focus your attention on the possibility that you want, the more you will bounce around towards that possibility. It's almost like skipping rocks. What reality are you skipping? What reality are you allowing your attention to focus on so you can jump on that reality and jump on this reality? It's quite difficult as being in a 3D body to conceptualize these things, but this is how it works. So law of assumption trumps and impacts law of attraction, and quantum manifesting trumps and impacts law of assumption. What you give attention to, what you allow your consciousness to settle itself on, what you observe is what turns into matter, is what turns into your reality. So you don't have to try to force yourself to feel a certain way. It just requires disciplining your thoughts, your mind, and your attention. Be very careful what you focus your attention on. And a lot of people will take this to mean like, oh, I shouldn't watch scary movies, right? But it's not about watching a scary movie. It doesn't mean that if you watch a scary movie, you're going to get eaten by a monster. It's what your thoughts are as you're watching the scary movie. So if you're watching the scary movie, or if you're watching true crime shows, something like that, and the whole time you're thinking, wow, I'm so lucky that nothing like that would ever happen here. And you truly believe that, like, you're not operating in fear, then you're still moving yourself towards a safe and peaceful reality. It's when you start to operate in fear and you start to focus your attention on the possibility of something happening to you that you begin to move towards that. And I'm not saying that people who experience things like that are at fault. I'm just saying the way that our universe operates, it's very important to carefully select what we give attention to, because our reality, this reality that we live in, is telling us that things become real when we pay attention to them, when we observe them. That's what science is telling us. So keep that in mind. If you want something, it is as simple as giving yourself permission to imagine having that thing, to embody the energy of having that thing. And by focusing your attention on the possibility of having it, you will naturally start to take steps that move you in that direction. You actually won't feel comfortable not doing the things that lead you toward your imagined future. Now, there's some people who daydream about all these big things, but in the back of their mind, they're always saying, it's not for me, it's not for me, it's not for me, even though they're imagining it. And that's why you have people who dream their whole lives and never reach their final destination. But if you let yourself dream about you doing something in the first person, if you imagine the smells, if you imagine what things would feel like, if you imagine, temperatures and sounds, and, you really immerse yourself in the experience, you are converting that experience into reality and moving your consciousness towards having that experience in the present moment.